12:13 before the hour. Welcome back to News Talk. In our conversation with Patrick Mara, head of the D.C. Republican Party, and Doug Sloan, a Democratic political campaign strategist. As you watch the debates so far, Patrick, I mean, the Trump effect is significant. It's huge. He's fun to watch. I think wherever you are on the political spectrum, for many people, he's fun to watch. For others, he's a turnoff. It's a little too junior high school, too much insult, too much sort of bombast and not enough policy. But do you worry about him being a double-edged sword in terms of the end of the process, when each party has a nominee and it's those two going head-to-head?
I mean, this is the primary process, and you know, Mr. Trump he's a Republican candidate for President of the United States. He is learning. It's the first time he's run for President of the United States, and I think that it's basically gone as well as one can expect, given the fact that Mr. Trump is used to his work on network TV.
He's a New Yorker.
He's very good at sound bites, whereas if you look at the governors and senators who are running, they're not used to such short, witty sound bites because they need to explain more from a policy perspective what this sound bite does. So I think with the primary process, this all work itself out in the primary process. Even here in D.C., we're having a state convention to elect our presidential candidates and our delegates, which has never been done before. We'll actually be in local D.C. For the presidential process on March 12th.
Doug, you've been a candidate, and you know what it is to have a candidate on stage in a big event. And even in a large field, one person, depending on their personality, can impact the discourse, the tone, all of it. And that is what we're seeing when the 10 or 11 top Republicans are on stage at one time. The Trump impact is palpable on that stage.
Yeah, and I think that harms the Republican Party because they have gotten away from policy. They should be focused on policy, how they are going to help the American people, how they are going to enrich our lives, make us better, make America better, give us a better tomorrow, and that's what they should be focused on. But with Trump there, and with even Carson leading in the polls, it's not focused on polity as much as it is on personality. And I think that harms the Republican Party and the Republican brand. And I'll say this, as we get away from the first two primaries and caucuses in Iowa and New Hampshire, you go into those secondary primary states in South Carolina and Nevada, I believe, Trump's lead opens up. It gets even wider. Him and Carson really start to separate themselves from the field. I don't think this is just a flash in the pan. I think the Republican Party may really nominate Donald Trump.
Patrick.
So Iowa and New Hampshire, obviously they really do matter, but one thing we haven't seen is if you look at all of the money, the cash that these candidates have on hand, particularly the top tier candidates, I mean, Mr. Trump is still not fundraising. He's still self-funding. And he has a very, very small organization, and there's a lot that happens on the ground in these states, so it's not just a matter of a poll. When you have a ton of people showing up at your door, calling you 7 times, contacting you in a variety of ways, and I've been in New Hampshire for a presidential contest. And
those calls need to be returned.
It's just overtaken. And so the question is, must Mr. Trump have that organization in New Hampshire? Will he have it in Iowa? And then look at super PACs. I mean, a number of these candidates have super PACs. Mr. Trump doesn't have a super PAC with $1 billion.
We have a couple minutes left, and I want to hit one final note here. All candidates, all politics is about, at some level, identifying issues. Call it complaining, if you will. The problem with America right now is this, or the problem with whatever is that. So you lay that out there. It's part of the rationale. It taps frustration that people at home have. It taps anger. It gives a suggestion as to why you're doing this, why you're running. But then I think, to be successful, there has to be the pivot to something, to solutions and to a more optimistic tone. It can't all be the grinding down and the negativity, I don't think. And maybe I'm misreading it. Who's winning on that score, if you're judging based on the debates that we've had up till now?
Well, I think that answer is obvious. The Democrats are winning on that score because we had a much more substantive debate regarding policy issues. Like I said, Glass-Steagall was mentioned, climate change, Black Lives Matter, gun control. We ran through the gamut. Syria, foreign relations, ran through the gamut of issues. And each one of the candidates, maybe with the exception of Jim Webb, because he really didn't get that much TV time.
Although, he according to NPR, he got almost as much as Martin O'Malley, but he used half of his time complaining about how little time he was getting. But the numbers don't bear that out.
Yeah,
who's winning?
Look, the issue is you have too many people, too many qualified people on the Republican side. Literally, you have like an entire cabinet that's running right now. Whereas on the Democratic side, it was like the Harlem Globetrotters versus the Washington Generals. This is like, we could not have made a sadder debate in our life. We could not have picked a worse group of individuals. Possibly a worse group of individuals, but this early on, without an incumbent sitting president. This is literally the group of candidates you get for a second-term president race. It's strange that there's not more qualified people running.
I have thought that too, actually.
Yeah,
where are the others?
I'll take issue with that. I think Sanders is very qualified. He knows the issues very well.
Again, we're talking about Bernie Sanders,
but he knows the issues. And I'm very honest. There are concerns about his electability in the general election. But again, I think Martin O'Malley may be a dark horse once people get to know him a little bit better.
At the moment, it feels like 3 of the 5 are 1%ers.
Yeah, it looks that way. And let me just say this
and that leaves
quickly.
the socialist and Hillary Clinton.
Let me say this very quickly. What you said regarding Trump, I understand that he is ramping up his organization in Iowa. And remember, he's a billionaire, so he can always just take one of his $4 billion. Money is not an issue there.
The Trump campaign is circulating petitions now to be on the ballot in D.C. for a state convention on
money
March
is not an issue.
Says the head of the D.C. Republican Party, Patrick Mara, Doug Sloan, Democratic strategist. Thank you both. Great conversation. I hope you'll both come back. We'll step aside here, back with a program note in a moment.